Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled Joy and Suffering, Opposites and Equals. I recently spent a few days away at Great Hucklow with ministry in the making. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience, if somewhat exhausting at times. And the title this year was The Ministry of All Believers. How do we believe in our people? And there was a kind of foundational quote for the week that we kept referring back to. And it's taken from the opening of the Charles Dickens great novel, A Tale of Two Cities. Very well-known phrase, which I'll just share with you. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. It really was an inspirational week, a wonderful week to spend with such a group of gifted and fascinating people. They are a credit to our free religious tradition, the Unitarian and Free Christian tradition, a real credit. It was wonderful to be with them. Inspirational. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I think that says it all about the paradoxical nature of life. Certainly the paradoxical nature of my life, and certainly the last 12 months, if we were all to look at them honestly. The best of times and the worst of times. All have been experienced, no doubt. Certainly it has for me. And life by its nature, it is paradoxical. It is full of contradictions. Some of the days of greatest joy contain some suffering. Actually, a day of celebration for one set of people can be one of utter dismay for others. Life is dukkha, as the Buddhists say. Choosing life for me is to embrace this aspect of what it means to live in the middle of the paradox of joy and of suffering, of the best of times, of the worst of times. For this is the nature of life. And this is what it means, I believe, to live spiritually alive. It is to live with life in its entirety. As Barry Lopez has said, one must live in the middle of contradiction, because if all contradiction were eliminated at once, life would collapse. There are simply no definitive answers to some of the great pressing questions. You continue to live them out, making your life a worthy expression of leaning into the light. And to live spiritually alive, of course, is to lean into the light, or perhaps it's more than this. It's to let the light shine out of us, to truly become our true destiny, to become the light of the world, as someone once said. For joy and suffering go hand in hand. To know joy is to also know suffering. You cannot have one without the other. Being in a place of joy opens your heart, and it should make you more aware of the sufferings around you, which can make you very vulnerable too. An open heart is a vulnerable heart, and it is an awakened heart. And it's also worth noting that just because you are filled with joy, it does not mean that others will share that joy with you. But does that mean we should inhibit our joy? I don't think so. It does not serve the world, and actually only feeds the darkness evermore if we don't. If we hide, if we inhibit our joy, it just increases the darkness. And it's easy to be cynical, to hide the light, but I believe this is a betrayal of God-given life, and I know only too well the real dangers of this. To live fully alive is to accept life in life's entirety, both the joys and the sufferings. It is to walk with others in their sufferings, to hold them in their time of need, and to let them hold when you need comfort too. It is not to hide your light, for this serves no one. And it might not always be, even if it's not always appreciated. We should not hide our light. How often in human history have we destroyed the lights that shine the brightest? Too much for some folk. Having said that, there is the danger of spending too much time basking in the light, indulging too much in the light, and that serves no one too. The spiritual life is about being open, living spiritually alive, sharing this with others. It's about accepting life in its entirety and to love the folk you share this life with and to love them as they are. And in so doing, we follow that greatest of all commandments. I'm sure you've heard me say one of my ministerial mantras over and over again. Choose life. I often find myself quoting these well-known words of Moses from Exodus. I heard somebody else doing it the other day, actually. Words he uttered during his final sermon, just before he died, just before the people entered the promised land without him, after 40 years in the wilderness. By the way, 40 years is symbolic of a very long time, a lifetime back then actually. It's not exactly 40 years. It's so easy to get lost in such things. It just meant a very long time. And the words he said are, of course, I lay before you life, blessings and curses. Therefore, choose life. This to me is what it means to live truly alive, to live spiritually. To live spiritually alive is to embrace the whole of life as it truly is. Now, some people question that I use that phrase curses, although they don't question the use of the word blessings, I've noticed. I understand the protest because, you see, to see life's troubles as curses is to see them as something that's bestowed upon us, a kind of punishment for our humanness, and I don't think that's the case at all. So I've tried over the years to come up with an alternative to the word curses, but not blessings, I've noticed, by the way. I've tried to come up with an alternative for the troubles of life, but I can't find a perfect one, and I don't suppose I ever will. So I'll just use good old Moses' words, or this translation of the words. We don't get to pick and choose the things that happen to us, I don't think so. But to truly know the joy of life is to truly know life's blessings and curses, joys and sufferings. But as the Buddhists say, life is dukkha. Nothing ever stays the same. Nothing ever lasts forever. Nothing ever lasts forever. Life is by its nature paradoxical. Life is full of contradictions. Some of the days of the greatest joy also contain some of the greatest sufferings. And sometimes a day of immense celebration for one person can be one of utter dismay for another. And sometimes our joy people say it makes them feel worse. But should we hide our light because of that? No, we should not. For life is always changing. Life is impermanence. Life is dukkha, which is really what that means. Choosing life for me is to embrace everything. It is to live in the middle of the paradox of joy and suffering. For that is the true nature of life. That's what it means to live spiritually alive. And to live spiritually alive is to lean into the light. Or maybe it's more than that. It's to let the light shine from our being, to truly become our destiny, to truly become the light of the world, as a great man once said. I spent some time with a good old friend recently. He lives in Accrington, up there in deepest, darkest Lancashire. And we talked and shared many things as we have in recent years. He himself is close to retirement after 45 years of service at the same firm. Incredible that people still do that, isn't it? And he has a dream for his retirement. It's to become a kind of one-on-one tour guide. And he certainly knows his local history. He drove me around the beautiful countryside and told me many tales about the local history and the land and the monuments and all the different things and the places. And it was incredible, actually. His knowledge is phenomenal. We visited site after site. I remember passing the statue of Alice Nutter, a quite imposing, frightening statue, for she was one of the original Pendle witches. I don't mean the Alice Nutter from Chumbawamba, who took her name from that Alice Nutter. He showed me other sites too, like Cromwell's broken bridge, which is symbolic and meaningful to him personally, and also the last surviving Clarion House in England, which is restored by another. He's got a family connection to over the years. It was a great, enjoyable drive, and educational and interesting as he shared the sights and the local history in all its light and all its darkness too. For history, just like today, is a mixture of all. I think it's something he's a natural at, actually. And along with sharing these kind of stories, we shared personal stories about our own history, our own childhoods, our own experiences of growing up in two different small towns in the north of England, very similar places in so many ways. There is much about Accrington that reminds me of Batley, the town I grew up in, for better or for worse. And so we shared many stories about our childhoods and our own experiences, happy ones and not so happy ones, for life, again, is a mixture of these blessings and curses. A proper mixture of both. So I shared some hilarious stories, but I also did share, or it came back to my mind, another not so funny experience, a painful experience actually. It seems appropriate to share that here because it kind of links to what I've been trying to talk about here. How people can sometimes respond to happiness with darkness and destruction. I remembered a memory came about being at a youth club, which is something that teenage kids did when I was growing up. I'd be about maybe 12 or 13 actually. And it was a challenging time in my life and in my family's life. And I remember standing in this place and feeling safe, feeling free, just feeling happy, which was a feeling that I wasn't feeling most of the time at the time. How I was just enjoying looking out and watching the kids, my contemporaries, dancing. I just felt instantly happy, lost in the moment. I felt utterly free, and a big, broad, beaming smile spread across my face. I was in utter bliss. I just felt free and happy. Just in the moment, lost and enjoying this incredible experience of feeling happy to be with this, feeling safe, feeling free. When suddenly, for no reason at all, another boy just hit me in the face. For no reason that I can think of. I was in utter shock. Afterwards, the leaders of the youth group spoke with him and asked him why he did it. Why did he just suddenly, for no reason seemingly, decide to hit me in the face? And he said, I don't really know why. I just hated the fact that he looked so happy. It made me feel so bad. And I could identify with that, although I wouldn't have responded in the way that he did. And the scene, the experience reminded me actually of a film I saw many years later, a film I saw over 20 years ago now, somewhere kind of halfway in between the two now and that experience from my childhood. And a scene from that nihilistic film, Fight Club. And it's a scene of the leading character saying he had to go out and destroy something beautiful because he felt so terrible inside. It was the only thing that would take that feeling, was to destroy something beautiful. It's one of the stories of human nature, how we can sometimes respond to what is beautiful, to what is light, in such destructive ways. Sometimes seeing the light can remind us just how dark things can truly be, and can lead to such a dark response. For light doesn't always encourage others to seek ever more light. It can lead folk to turn away, to reject life, and sometimes lead to destruction, to destroy. And human history is littered with that, as is our present time too. And who wants to look at the darkness in life? I don't, but we must if we're going to live honest and open and real lives. For to live fully alive is to accept life in its entirety, both the joys and the sufferings. It's to walk with others in their sufferings, to hold them in their time and need, and to let them hold us when we need comfort too. It's not to hide the light, for that serves no one. Although to shine your light might not always be appreciated. How often in human history have we destroyed the lights that shine the brightest? Nor does it serve us to bask too long in the light. We have to live in the light, not bask in it for too long. There's a time for everything under the sun. Brings to my mind foundational words from Jesus, which I believe are the foundational words of the message, his message that he brought to humanity. Words from his first sermon, kind of words in contrast to those words that I shared from Moses' last sermon, the first and the last. The first shall be last, if you like. That's not the words, by the way. Words from the Sermon on the Mount. Words that are foundational, actually, as are those other words by Moses. Words that are foundational to my understanding of my own belief, my own faith, I guess. Particularly, and they're from Matthew chapter 5, particularly verses 14, 15 and 16, which I'll just share with you now. It'll make sense when I share them. He said, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." That sounds simple, doesn't it? Easy to do, but it's not easy. But it's worth it for each of us and for countless others, even when they want to snuff out the light or destroy the light, because it makes them feel worse if they're stuck and lost in darkness. But we can't allow that to keep our light hidden. Let your little light shine for all to see. Life is full of opposites. There is joy and there is suffering. There is love and there is hate. There is hope and there is despair. And there is light and there is dark. To live fully alive is to accept all and to respond to all appropriately. And not to be afraid to weep at times, but also don't be afraid to laugh to smile, to shine your light, even if people want to destroy that. Even if your smile, your light makes some feel worse. Others need to see it shine so bright. Don't let them snuff it out. To live fully alive, to live spiritually alive, is to live with your heart burst open. It is to live with a vulnerable heart. But a vulnerable heart can be so easily hurt, can be so easily wounded. And a wounded heart, a truly wounded heart, a truly open heart, a truly vulnerable heart will, of course, carry many scars. Don't be afraid to show them. Be proud of them, for they are a mark of life lived with love, and a life lived truly, alive and openly. It will have scars. Don't be afraid to shine your light or to show your scars, for those around need to see them, for the life lived. Don't bleed on them, but show them that you've lived a life, to encourage them to live theirs too. And it brings to mind one of those stories that you hear from time to time. I don't know if the stories are true. Are they apocryphal? I don't care actually if they're factually true, for they have a deeper meaning, a universal meaning. They are a mythos, and that's what mythos means. It's not about fact. Mythos isn't about reason and fact. It's not about truth and untruth. It's about universal truth that speaks through the ages, that speaks to all who have ears to hear. It's a deeper, deeper truth. But anyway, it's that story, which I've shared before, about the soldiers who survived the Battle of Agincourt. How each year on the anniversary of the battle, they would stand up high and proud on their tiptoes, and they would bear their scars for all to see. Scars of battle, scars of life fully lived. Fully lived, that they brought into the moment that they were in right there for all to see. And in so doing, they became fully alive. Scars they were not afraid to show, for they were no longer haunted by the wounds that caused the scars. And that's how we should live. As they stood there, as they stood proud, fully alive, shining their light for the whole world to see. In so doing, they chose life in all of life's joy and all of life's sufferings. Amen. So I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. You know we need to bless more. And yes, we can all bless. And yes, we bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So, here we go. Go out into the highways and the byways. Give the people something of your new vision. You may possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and the minds of all people. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and the everlasting love of God. May this love of life become our prayer as we increase our sensitivity to life and live more spiritually alive. And let us do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and in all that we do. Amen.